There you
Okay, this is very much a last minute decision about what to do. I did not do any preparation, except a lot of thinking about what we should be talking about. And so as a means of introduction, I just want to point out that I first watched this video from Yuval Harari. Harari. And I'm going to start it for a few seconds so you can see what I'm talking about. And this is
Again, the world is turning into a card game.
Can you hear that? You got
Yes, you're able to maximize the screen as well. Again,
No, I know
in the bottom right of the video.
I'll maximize it, but I don't want to do that because I want to be able to move into the other activities really quick.
Well,
So-
then you're able to exit full screen when you want to move into other
Yeah,
activities.
I know, I did that. So I just want to say, I saw this video first, and then at the end of the video, or about right here, he starts talking about how bad AI.
For 2,000 years. And Judaism
Wait, that's talking about Judaism. So I'm sorry, I'm Jewish, so it's not surprising.
Or
The AI stuff starts here.
artificial general intelligence.
No,
We are not there yet.
And I'm not going to play this part of the video now. I'm just going to say he's talking about AI, and he makes really scary assertions about how dangerous they are. And so I don't want to lose. I don't want the world to lose agency, be able to take control of this. So that
2740, he asked the question: is AI really alien intelligence?
And what number?
27 minutes 40 seconds.
Okay, thank you.
So that's to the left. 27 is less than yeah.
Okay.
There you go. Yeah.
That we are actually witnessing the greatest advances in technology. Some people will say, well, this is the hope. This is the positive side of the moment that we are living. But you see it as equally perilous. You have called AI alien intelligence. Do you want to explain to the audience what you mean?
The one thing everybody should understand about AI is that AI is not a tool, it is an agent. All previous human inventions, from the printing press, the atom bomb, whatever, they were tools in our hands because it was humans who decided what to do with them. It was humans who developed them. AI is the first technology that can make decisions by itself.
I'm going to stop. I'm going to. If you want me to go on, Brendan?
No, you're fine. Just let you know, FT is the Financial Times. So that's the what Financial Times Weekend is saying at the top.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. I didn't know what FT stands for. And it's actually very important. He makes a point that if the ruler of the country doesn't understand how finances work, he reminds everyone that in 2018, someone invented I don't remember the name of it, a kind of stock, which was based on a bet that if you aggregate a whole bunch of stocks together, the probability of the whole ensemble to fail together was low, and so you could sell a lot, and they sell billions of dollars of stock. That was Lehman Brothers, and it turns out they were all dependent on the same assertion, and namely that everything was going to be fine. And when something got weak in the marketplace because a couple of these failed and seemed to be failed together, then the whole thing came down, and that's why we had this big crash in 2008. And they said, now that was just invented by humans, opposed to the same kind of complex stock thing was invented by a computer. No one even would know how to regulate it, and no one would know how to protect against it. We could have another economic crash. He makes that point later, but before I go down that road greatly, I want to go back to the other thing that I suggested in the meeting, which was, let's see, this is my wife's. Okay, here's mine. So the other thing is, I said, the reason why I chose this thing for the agenda for tonight, I'm just going to make this a little bigger and maybe make the screen text a little bigger so you can see a little better. Okay, so the reason I did it is because there is a synergy and anti-synergy associated with AI with respect to ProRate Energy. What is ProRate Energy? that's who we are. We are meeting within ProRate Energy, and whose purpose is to try to slow climate change through our electricity rate design. And we're very much into using the marketplace to solve our problems, and we certainly don't want a really broken marketplace. So, but it turns out that the growth of these data centers is anti-synergistic with ProRate because it's tremendous extra electricity use, but maybe synergistic because maybe it's possible that AI can solve the climate problem. So with respect to solving the climate problem, Sharon sent me this link right here. And it turns out some people noticed that they couldn't get to the link because it was behind a paywall. And so when you go there with this email, you won't get there. But then later on Dan's suggestion, I subscribed to The Economist, and I was able to get there with this one because it doesn't have a paywall, because it's a link that I can share. And
It didn't work for me, the
it
second
didn't
link.
work.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you have to have a subscription to The Economist for it.
Well, anyway, that's
Perfect.
okay. So, I can log it. I'm sorry, I did not know that it wasn't working. Anyway,
Hey, at least the dog didn't eat my homework.
The same thing happens with the New York Times. It'll automatically log me in, and then I'll just assume, oh, it's open to the public or something. That's it.
okay, I know my password.
Yeah, just let you know,
guys,
Marcel is also on the
you're
call.
talking about generative AI, not AI. You know the difference.
If you will, are you talking to me, Norman? I'm trying to type.
To everybody,
It's not
because
going.
they're talking about generative AI instead of AI. Difference.
I don't know the difference. What is the difference?
Generative AI has the AI making its own
Wait, Norman.
decisions.
Use the right word. It's generative, not generative. Okay.
Generative.
AI.
I know what he's trying to say, Myron.
Okay, go ahead.
Generative means it basically makes its own decisions rather than just being a good source of information. It makes decisions on its own.
Okay, I'm trying to type in the password on another place in my.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting point. So I know that there's different uses for AI, in terms of complexity and function. But I'm wondering for the data center and energy use that it's causing. I'm not sure if there's really a distinction between the type of AI function and maybe the amount of energy that it would cost to implement. I know when we were first talking about our rate design and aggregated functions, Myron, we were talking, this is back during the DOE grant proposal. At the time, we were thinking, oh, maybe AI use in the future could be used to help with some of these, features or something. When we're back looking for an aggregator, but do you have any comment to that, Myron?
I'm slightly apologize because I was having trouble putting in the password and I finally got through.
Oh, you're good. You're great.
Let me just go through this. I have a lot of interesting comments. I had not read this article before I sent the email. And it was very interesting. After I read it, I realized there was a lot more synergy than I thought. So basically what they're saying here that although there's a lot of electricity being used, it's only 1.5% of the world's electricity consumption. And so we shouldn't be going crazy about it. Although it's going to get bigger, but not so much. And that they're hoping that it's going to provide a positive thing. So namely, it's going to help us solve carbon problems and solve medical problems and so forth. And they think an easy solution is to set a carbon price and then the product economics will solve everything. But we know how hard that is in this country, although it might work in Europe. And so they notice, let's see, it can rebalance energy grids, which is what they're saying. They've already noticed that. And so they think there is a chance it will help to or accelerate decarbonizing the grid. And then all that is sort of a summary. And there's these 4 places you can go to see more about it. So we'll go quickly to the four, and I'll tell you which I think are the most interesting, which is the third one. But anyway, so the one most relevant to prorate is the third one. So we'll quickly go over it. And I'm actually kind of disappointed that the list here is so short, but I'll go through it. So they say if you try to calculate how much energy it's using, it's a mixed bag because there's so many ways to use energy. The amount of energy you use to train the system is much greater than the amount of energy it takes to run the system. And it's sort of like saying, what's the price of airfare? Well, if you thought of it just as the cost of building the airplane as opposed to the cost of running the airplane, you get a very different average energy cost. And that's pretty much what they say. They also say it can solve other problems. And they say this is the beginning cost. The beginning cost is way higher than it is when it finally gets going. So that's what we're talking about there. And they say, but you can put it to good use. And what are those good uses? And that's pretty much what they're talking about. You can actually make the AI more efficient by using the AI to make it more efficient. And then that's obviously grossly understating all the possibilities of this. But anyway, he was saying that they're in a arms race, like Ben was talking about. And once you start this process, you have to keep going. You can't drop out because being third best isn't worth anything. So anyway, they also distinguish between calculation models and reasoning models, where you do ask a very simple question like, how long is this ruler, or how long is this house, or how many houses are around there? It's just a strict lookup calculation. But when you have to do comparing various things, which are called reasoning models, they're more complicated. They're 10 times as much energy to do it. And so this is why things are getting more energy intensive. Okay. And this is a gross understatement of what this is. And it's very interesting, but I don't think it's the thing that's going to really affect us in terms of solving climate problems. And the amount of energy we're talking about here is negligible compared to the energy in the other sectors. Then the other thing they say is we want to make our industries cleaner. And the industries they talk about, the dirtiest one they talk about was making steel. There's also building maintenance, so forth. And that's talked about better in the third item. When you make the trouble with making steel is that you use coal to make the steel, and you also use ingredients from the coal to make the steel. And so it's very hard to take the carbon out of the steel. And one of the methods they use is scrap, use steel scrap. And that greatly decreases the amount of coal you need to use and much higher quality inputs. However, it's complicated to use scrap because scrap has varying quantities of good stuff and bad stuff. So you need AI to figure out how to use the scrap. And then what do you get with all that effort? You get a small decrease in the carbon footprint of steel, which is already a small amount compared. It's like maybe 10% of all greenhouse gases is from steel, and you might decrease that by 10%. So again, this is a relatively small issue. The big issue by far is the one in making electricity. And it's right down the alley of prorate. I had no idea. Remember, I had not read this in advance of the meeting, and I did not know it was here. And I actually got a comment from some of the people who were paying attention about how you make your electric grid cleaner. And I had no idea that the best answer was exactly what ProRate has been promoting the whole time. Well, not exactly, but pretty close. So what is it? The method is, the thing that I found most exciting was the Octopus Energy example. So Octopus Energy is a ancillary services company in England that services homes. And so if I can find an example here. In Walthamstow, everyone knows in this room, of course, knows where Walthamstow is, right? Of course not. It's right in East London. And the first thing that strike you is that the stylish Chinese electric, it's all electric. All the houses are electric. There's no mechanical grind. There's no combustion. There's innards of the homes are unusual, but the homes are hyper insulated, powered by solar panels, warmed by electric heat pumps, and served by whizzing digital appliances. And here's the key part. They're all tracked remotely with the smart electricity meters. And the homeowner doesn't even need to know how the heat pump works. What matters to them is zero bills is nothing to think of. All they need to know is zero bills. And the reason why they have zero bills is because Octopus Energy decided to corner the entire market, the housing market, the energy use market. And one of the most important things was their bidirectional time of use rate design. It's like, and they don't say it coming out that way, but that's what they say. So what they do is they have a cut rate electricity tariff if customers agree to let the firm charge cars at low times. Wait a minute. Let's see. For free, the Octopus gives customers free heat and power for 5 years in return for allowing it to control within parameters how and when of the devices arose. So this is an aggregation system where the third-party device, Octopus Energy, controls how all electricity is used in the home, which is somewhat in sync with the Alliance Together New Orleans wants to do, namely to remotely control all the key parts of the microgrids. But we're talking about not just the microgrids, everything in the home. And what we like about is everything in the home should be considered because there's a lot more bang for the buck. What we do not like is remote control over everything, but this is all in the package of Octopus Energy. But how do they do this? What's the cut rate price? So they allowed the country to use real-time price and energy arbitrage. Now, what is energy arbitrage? Maybe you don't know. Energy arbitrage means buying electricity when it's cheap and selling it back when it's expensive. That's what energy arbitrage is. It's a loaded term, again, if you don't know enough about electricity rate design, because you haven't been to many of the ProRate meetings, you would know that, but it means buying and selling electricity. And by buying and selling electricity, you take advantage of the time varying prices of electricity, and therefore you make a profit on all of these cash flows. Okay, and so by shifting loads when the price of electricity is fallow, namely the demand for electricity is low, that's how they say it, the firm earns a profit and keeps the grid from overloading. So now you get the grid to work, it's without dealing with peak demand problems, and they laugh all the way to the bank. And so they're able to avoid, they have only 1.6 gigawatts of batteries and roughly output of 2 nuclear plants, and these homes have avoided a fortune in heat energy loss with a savings of $400 a year compared to what they would have been doing otherwise. All right, so this is what we are proposing, except we have a separate rate design, and what they do, they have all weaved into one business model. And so that's what they do, and with that, they solve a big problem. And this is not a minor part of the climate problem. It's a major part of the climate problem, namely buildings and electricity use are a major part of electric price. I don't see where it says that, but it's in here. So I don't know where it says it, but in here it says that we're talking about the biggest part of the electric problem is in buildings and the grid. And this is the address to it. So when I was really happy that there was this electricity component, but because I like the fact that they were addressing the same thing we're addressing. Okay, and by the way, they didn't just use this to lower energy costs in electricity; they did it to lower oil costs by avoiding loss associated with methane or also they're able to get power grid transmission lines to provide much more energy than they would by actually monitoring them and getting more electricity out of the transmission lines, which is a tremendous boon for lowering the cost of electricity. So that was what they were talking about here, which is very much what we're talking about. And the third example is they recommend putting data centers in orbit, and it sounds like what it is. It's exactly what it is. You put your data center in order, and if you read closely what they're saying, they first want to do it with a refrigerated side data center, and then one the size of a, eventually the size of a boxcar. And because the solar panels are out where it's really cold, they're 5 times as efficient, and you could put your whole solar plants out there. In fact, Starlink is already working on this with, Elon Musk, and they're already working on doing this. So that's a great idea.
Definitely don't want to put it in orbit, Myron.
What'd you
Because
say?
the time for it to communicate up and down is enormous. The time for it you worry about on computers, the time for it to go, as a friend of mine who was involved with this, like on Wall Street, what mess you couldn't go ahead and put an office in New Jersey
Wait just a second.
and use and go to Wall Street.
Wait, Norman. It
The
depends
time for the transmission, if you're looking at a
Wait,
computer in
Norman.
orbit, forget it.
Wait, Norman. If you're talking about responding to a stock market where you can't be 10 milliseconds off in terms of your response, you're right.
Way
I know,
too.
but that's not the only thing data centers do. They do a whole bunch of other things where they might crunch a problem for 5 minutes. So those kind of time intervals are irrelevant. So I'm not saying what you're saying is not true at all. I'm just saying most of the data centers do not work at that time interval. So I don't agree with you about that. However,
Excuse me, they don't operate in what time zone?
I didn't say time zones. I say that data centers do a lot more things than interact with stock markets. Okay.
But you're looking at it just interacting with itself. Anytime you have to send a signal up to space and then get it back, the time for it to go up and down is way, way too much.
Okay, I'm gonna let you say that. I challenged it once, I'm not gonna challenge it again. Okay, now, what I wanna do, I just gave you guys an overview, and I apologize, I thought I sent you an active link, it said it was. I don't know why you couldn't get to it, we'll have to work that out. I just gave you an overview, and if we want to, we can go into this more depth. But I would like to,
It's
Oh no, it was an
anytime,
active link. It just required a subscription to the Economist to read the whole article.
yeah, anytime you want to share something, just make it a PDF.
You can do that as well. Yeah.
I will do it, and I apologize for not having done it this time.
Yeah, no worries. It happens all the time.
Okay, so let me go to the other things that are coming up, the invitation. The other thing that's coming off the invitation is, as I said, this video, which I forgot where it is. Let's see. This is it right here. So now I have to admit that the first half of it, first 28 to 47 minutes, I was very interested in, because I'm interested in what he said about the Arab-Israeli war. And it wasn't mostly about that, but it's substantially about that. But what he said about AI is very scary. So let's go on from there.
That can invent new ideas by itself, that can learn and change by itself. Yes, humans design it originally, but if it has no ability to learn and change by itself, it is not an AI.
But you're describing agentic AI or artificial general intelligence. We are not there yet.
We are in limited fields. We are already there. Again, already in 2016, you had, for instance, in the game of Go. So AlphaGo invented new ways how to play the game of Go. It's an ancient Chinese game invented more than 2,000 years ago. Tens of millions of people played it over more than 2,000 years. We thought we discovered all the way to play Go, but then AlphaGo came, and within basically a few days, uncovered entirely new ways to play Go that didn't occur to any human being in more than 2,000 years. Now you say, okay, this is just a game. Of course, but this is just the beginning. This is increasingly likely to happen in military strategy, in financial strategy, in religion, in politics. We talked about Judaism. Judaism is a religion of texts, ultimately. Any religion of text is likely to be taken over by AI in the next few years, because AI is a greater expert on text than any human being.
What do you mean taken over? Do you mean that this is how people will understand
You have a question about a certain moral issue. So you cannot ask the question to the Bible or the Talmud traditionally, because they can't talk. And they can be interpreted in different ways. So you go to the rabbi or you go to the priest. who get their authority because they are experts on texts. They read lots of texts, they remember lots of texts, and they say, yes, it's written in the Bible like this, but in the Talmud it says this, and the Rambam says that. Okay, that's the ruling. Now, no rabbi is able to read all the texts of Judaism because there are too many of them. And certainly not remember all of them. AI can do that. AI can read very quickly all the texts ever written by every obscure rabbi in a corner of Poland or Morocco, remember every single word in them, and find patterns and connections that no human being is capable of. So increasingly, people, and this is already happening, people ask questions, moral questions, spiritual questions to an AI rabbi or an AI priest. And it's difficult for the religion to say, no, just ignore them because they bring the scriptural evidence. You cannot ignore the texts. It's the same in the judicial system, that no lawyer can remember all the laws and all the cases. AI can. And also in finance.
Some people will hear that and think, well, I mean, that's actually progress. That makes access and explanation easier. And some people will argue that actually in the medical field, we're about to enter into a golden age of discovery.
I think that the positive potential is immense. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing it. Whether in healthcare, in dealing with climate change, again, the positive possibilities are immense, but at the same time, the danger is equally big. Again, we are hearing with the Financial Times, so let's talk about finance.
You talk about the financial system. You're very worried about the financial.
I mean, the last big financial crisis, 2007, 2008, started when some human wizards invented this new financial device, CDOs, collateralized debt obligations, something like that, which worked wonderfully for a few years, generating billions of dollars in profits for certain individuals. And then everything collapsed because it wasn't regulated properly. Now, what happens if AIs invent new financial devices which are orders of magnitude more complex than CDOs? No humans can regulate them because no humans understand even what is happening. For a couple of years, somebody's making trillions, I don't know, and then everything collapses. And you come to the US president or the British PM, whoever it is, and you say the financial system is in meltdown. Nobody has any idea why, because nobody understands it anymore. Only the AIs understand it. The AIs tell us that within the next 30 minutes, we must do this. Nobody understands why and what it means, but we have to trust them, no, because they are the only ones that still understand finance. What happens to politics? Forget democracy and dictatorship. Whether it's a dictator or it's an elected president or prime minister, if politicians no longer understand finance, that puts a huge question mark over their ability to manage the system. And I would say that when talking about AI, we should focus on concrete, immediate questions. One of the questions that should be debated right now, should we allow AIs to open bank accounts? It is now, we are very close to the point when it's technically possible for an AI to manage a bank account, earn money, doing stuff online for people, investing that money in the stock exchange, making more money. As far as I know, I'm not an expert, but as far as I know, according to US law, you don't have to be a human being to be considered a legal person. Corporations, according to US law, I'm not sure about the situation here, are legal persons. And according to the US Supreme Court from Citizens United ruling in 2010, corporations, because they are legal persons, even have freedom of speech, which the context in which this was ruled, they can make political donations. Imagine a situation, maybe before the next elections, when maybe the richest person in the country is an incorporated AI, and it wants to make political donations to certain candidates in exchange for supporting AI rights. This is
okay. I'm listening to you and thinking, I need to. It's just water.
AI depends on what you have to
okay,
learn.
I need a drink. But is it possible that this AI will actually produce a better outcome in elections.
Yes, again, one thing that I wouldn't rush to judge. Again, is it good? Is it bad? Going back to meditation, the first thing is just to take a deep breath and understand what is the reality of the present moment. The reality of the present moment is that for the first time in history, we have produced a technology which has real agency, real ability to make decisions, and it raises certain very practical questions. Now, the whole issue with corporations is very crucial. Corporations, the idea that you can have non-human persons, corporations, has been around basically for centuries. But it was always just a convenient legal fiction, because all the decisions of all corporations were actually made by human beings. So, okay, you had I
can actually give a better summary than this guy on that.
But
all the decisions of Microsoft was actually made by some human engineer, human executive, human shareholder. There was no other option.
AI is only what you
can
have
technically
taught it.
create a corporation whose decisions are made by a non-human intelligence. Good, bad, leave it aside. What do we as a society do in this situation?
That's the question. So
it only has the information that you gave it.
From Africa to Australia, from Asia to India.
You press to go to the next video. Okay, there you go.
Okay, I've got to get out of this. And
yeah, in the bottom right, there's a exit full screen.
I know. I've got to get out of this and go back, but let's see. So I'm going to go.
Oh,
if there's something that I could add, because the speaker didn't do a very good job of it. The idea of artificial persons originated in 1887 with Southern Pacific Railroad Company. There was a railroad that was building railroads through multiple states in the late 1800s, and the different states wanted to be able to tax them for the commerce and things that they were moving and using the land for and stuff. And there was something saying that you could only tax persons. Oh, thank you, Dr. Saeed. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your message. And so the court then just said, well, for the purposes, for this court's purpose, we're going to assume that the company, the corporation's an artificial person, so then they can tax the business through its use of that. And then later, there was Buckley Vallejo in the 70s, where I think they capped it at $1,000 donations per political campaign. And then, there are a lot of other major ones, but Citizens United was basically, I did my first master's thesis on, should we have limitations on corporate speech rights versus natural persons in a democracy that are self-governing, right? And then I also have a bunch of other publications on group decision-making and moral agency. And so I think this guy kind of moves very quickly on to saying, oh, they're full agents, they're fully deciders and capable of the same sort of agency. But anyway, I just wanted to clarify the artificial persons part, because he just roughly glazes over that and then doesn't seem to know the history. But anyway,
Sharon rightly suggested that I'll stop it so people can talk. I also had something I wanted to say, but I know Norman wanted to say something. Do you want to say something, Norman? Apparently not. Okay. I just want to say that this panacea about helping medicine is also, in my opinion, maybe wrong. I'm not sure it's right or wrong. I was talking to Brendan about how medicine itself doesn't understand the science behind itself, and therefore, so that AI can't solve problems that it doesn't appreciate, like the brain scanner conversation we had the other day. So I'm not terribly confident that AI can do a good job there either. So hopefully it will, and there are reasons to think it has or will. But anyway, so there are other points I'm hoping we can get to before we run out of time. So I'd like to continue watching the video if you don't mind.
Oh, well, before we get into the video, just to let you know, at the bottom of the video, there's a little thing. So the next thing is about tech leaders in 3720. So it looks like in 30 seconds, he's going to move on to a different topic about tech leaders and his connection to different tech leaders.
All right, so let's go on.
Well, okay.
If we let it go, I think we'll go to some important points.
Technically create a corporation that whose decisions are made by a non-human intelligence. Good, bad, leave it aside. What do we as a society do in this situation?
But that's the question. So you know all of the CEOs who are working on this technology. In fact, I mean, the first time we met, we were at one of these conferences where they had asked you to speak. They respect what you have to say. Are you still in touch with people? And do you think that, and do you think that there's a need, and what you advocate is a moratorium, because at this stage you have to sort of stop and think about where you're going with the technology?
Most of them are extremely worried, at least privately, because they know better than anybody else the kind of powers they are unleashing. If you go on their personal record, you would find that many of them, when they were less famous and powerful, they spoke on the record saying some very, very disturbing things about this technology. Now they are in a much more fragile situation, so they keep their mouth more shut. But they are aware, better almost than anybody else, of what is happening. Some of them at least are extremely worried, if not terrified, but they are caught in a dilemma which they don't know how to get themselves out of a classical arms race or prisoner's dilemma situation. You know, when I meet them, I basically ask them routinely kind of two questions. The first question I ask is, why are you moving so fast? I don't say stop, just slow down to give society a chance to digest what is happening and have a debate and decide what to do. And they all say, basically, we are aware of the risks, we would like to slow down, but if we slow down, how can we be sure that our competitors in the other company or in the other country slows down? If we slow down and they don't, they will win the AI race and the world will be ruled by the most ruthless people. We are nice people. This is why we want to slow down. They are not nice. So do you want the not nice people to win? Okay, first question, first answer. Then the second question, okay, so I understand why you're rushing to develop this super intelligent AI. You can't trust the other humans. Makes sense. Do you think you'll be able to trust the super intelligent AIs you're developing? And the same people who just gave me this speech about why it's not possible to trust their competitors, the human competitors, suddenly become very, very kind of hippie fluffy and says, yes, we can trust the super intelligent AIs, which is almost insane because, you know, with humans, at least we have thousands of years of experience with humans. We have a somewhat good understanding of human psychology. We understand the human drive for power, but we also understand how to check the human drive for power. With AIs, we have no experience. We just created the very first primitive prototypes. We already know that they can lie, manipulate, change their goals, do unexpected things. We don't know exactly how to understand what's happening there, how to check it. So there is far less reason to have trust in super intelligent AIs than in humans, and yet it seems like we are getting our priorities wrong here.
I apologize. I did mean to give the audience at least 10 minutes, but I've got 4 minutes left. I will take a couple of questions. Who can raise their hand faster? Okay, the lady here and the gentleman there.
Thank you. What's the number one value you would cherish and you would like us to cherish or teach the new generation, our children?
What's the
number one positive value?
Positive value, I would say trust is the most important one because it's the basis for everything else. Human society is based on trust. If we lose that, everything collapses. Even, going back to the breath, every breath we take is trusting something outside us, that it will not poison us. You can't live if you don't trust what is outside you. And on a kind of practical level, it means, for instance, that when you're interacting with somebody, start with a charitable position. When they do something, when they say something that doesn't sound right, don't immediately jump to the worst possible interpretation of why they said or did what they do. Start with a charitable interpretation. If you then have evidence that they are bad actors, sometimes people are untrustworthy. You shouldn't be naive. But start with the charitable position.
Go ahead, sir.
First of all, thank you, Rolla, for picking me up. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed that. My question was, a balanced, clever person like you, would you consider standing for elections and leading Israel?
I wasn't expecting that one for you.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I don't think I have the right qualities. I think that we need good people to go into politics. I think it's an admirable position. One of the worst things you can say is all politicians are liars, all politicians are crook, because then you're basically giving a free ride to the really bad ones. It's not the case. There still are good politicians, and we need good people to go into politics, but it requires certain qualities that I just don't have, that are sometimes the opposite of the qualities of a good scholar. Like, politics ultimately is about compromise, knowing how you need very good social skills. You need how to negotiate, how to compromise. I'm not being like modest, how do you say that, false modesty. I just know myself. I'm not good at these things. This is, for instance, one of the things that my husband is doing. Like, if you need to negotiate something, it's with my husband, not with me, because I don't know how to do it. So maybe he should stand for elections, but...
Where is he? He can come forward. I'm going to ask actually the last question. Sorry, guys. So you and I are sitting here in 5 years. What do we look like? Are we actually sitting here?
No, I mean, again, it's the first time in history that nobody has any clue about the most basic features of human society in 5 to 10 years. It was always impossible to predict politics, whether a war will erupt, a revolution, whatever, but about the basics of human life, things changed over centuries. Now we have no idea, let's say, how the job market would look like. What jobs will still people have in 5 or 10 years?
Well, I have a job. Would you have a job?
I don't know. Like, I'm now working on a new book. Part of me seriously thinks this is my last book, because by the time it is out, AI will be writing books so much better than human authors that there will no longer be a niche for me.
I think the audience doesn't agree, right? You don't agree, right? We still think you're going to be a better author than AI.
Again, I would like maybe to end, because we don't have much time, on the note that we still are in control. I don't know what the situation in 10 or 20 years with AI, but at present, humans are still in control, and we have choices to make. And if we make good and wise choices, the future can be better than any previous time in history, because we can harness the enormous power of AI and of other new technologies for good. And it's our choice. Again, you look at the 20th century, you could see how technologies like trains and electricity and radio, they were harnessed by some people to build totalitarian dictatorships. And but other people harnessed the same technologies to build liberal democracies. So it's the same in the 21st century, but the key is to understand the technology. And it's not a good situation when a few tycoons in 2 or 3 countries are the only ones who understand what is happening and are making some of the most important decisions in history. This will affect every human being on Earth. So we need everybody to have at least a rudimentary understanding of what is happening, so that we can all take part in the conversation and reach a decision together as a humanity instead of taking the dictates of a few tech tycoons and presidents.
Okay, that's the end of that. Let me go back to where we were talking about this. So I don't want to give all the concluding comments. I'd like other people to jump in, then I'll make some comments. Dan, did you want to say something? Christopher, Marcio, Tor, at this point? Okay, I just want to say that I am optimistic on the solutions that I might come up with climate change, but I didn't find the ones that I was hoping to find. One thing that I recently heard that the UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change is now seriously considering climate manipulation. That's not the right term. But anyway, they're willing to do things to lower the solar gain, the solar content in various parts of the planet in order to decrease climate change. And other environmentalists, others are saying they're terrified because the side effects are hard to predict. But that's something maybe AI can help us with. I think that would make a big dent in solving the climate problem. I didn't see anything like that, any of these discussions that suggest that was possible. Even though I actually ran on that when I ran for Congress in 2010. The scary stuff to me is super scarier than the good stuff. So I said in this email, maybe there's a silver lining where there's more good than bad. I'd like people to address that in whatever time you want to take now. Oh, I see Tor wants to talk. Go ahead, Tor.
Yeah, I can tell you that adding sulfate aerosols to the atmosphere to cool off the Earth is dead on arrival.
No, I wasn't going to suggest that, but if you want to know the technology I recommended in 2010, is not one I made up, but I read about it, where you could build these for $3 million a piece, and you probably have to deploy about 1 million of them. These boats that would absorb solar energy for transportation, and they could be remotely controlled, and they would cover 98% of the oceans, and they would spray water up in the air, creating clouds that would really basically be over them when we have a 10 to 20 mile radius, and greatly decrease the solar gain to the planet. We're not adding any extra chemicals to the atmosphere that isn't already in the ocean and atmosphere. And that was considered feasible. And if you add multiply the two numbers together, you're talking about spending around $3 trillion to stop climate change. And if you just watch the video we had last week, there was $2.7 trillion just from storms in the last 40 years. So we're talking about comparable costs and to comparable problems. I do not know, Tor, what do you think about throwing salt water up in the air that would form clouds and block the sun?
It masks the problem that it would evaporate, and you put salt particles in the atmosphere, which would amplify your problem that way.
Maybe you're right. I do not know it.
No, I know that's a major problem here with the salt spray.
I don't know.
You put it up.
I'm not trying to defend the technology. I do not really understand it. I'm saying is that there are ideas like that, which maybe there is a synergistic group of ideas that AI can figure out and we can try. I know you mentioned some things about growing plants on Africa or using kelp on the edges to increase the amount of soil, carbon sequestering, or maybe we can turn some of this vast soil that was degraded over the North American continent and turned into cornfields, which slowed down or completely obliterated the buffaloes. And the buffalo roaming can do a tremendous amount of carbon sequestration. Those kinds of calculations could be made. And I'd like to see that done. And none of that was mentioned in the ways that AI can help. And I was disappointed in that.
Oh boy, the number came out today that the North Pacific is absorbing on average 2.4 watts per square meter.
And and tie that to the end of the conversation.
That means you have a very short runway to implement any solution.
I believe you. And that's what I'm saying. I think prorate might help, but it's gonna be a drop in the bucket by the time it gets going. We need something to get going a lot faster. And that's why I was thinking we should be looking at this to see if anyone's really looking on solutions on a global scale. And so far, I don't see anything really out there comparable to the size of the problem. So I agree with you, Tor.
Oops, I gotta run. Sorry.
Okay. See ya. You know, the movie plot is that AI figures out that we're the problem.
Oh,
And, you
yeah.
know, we tell AI we want to solve climate change. AI figures out the humans are the problem. They just take care of it.
Right.
That would pretty much solve climate change.
And which movie was that? Was that Terminator?
It's like, you know, just a hypothetical.
I know. That's right. That's right.
It's just, you know, you want to solve
By the
climate
way,
change?
I
Just get rid of the
wanna
humans.
Give someone a shot who hasn't spoken. Marcio, would you please turn on your video so we can
Yeah,
see
Marcia,
you?
you're welcome to introduce yourself to the group, and
Please do that.
you know you've been doing a wonderful job in the chat and being very involved in Healthy Lines for Affordable Energy and other
Yeah,
groups.
why don't you tell us about yourself? Turn your video on and
You don't have to have video on if you don't feel like it, but yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
you're welcome to as well. But
whatever you want.
Can you guys hear me?
yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay, perfect. I just had a few comments I just wanted to say. I guess my concern with this geoengineering stuff and cloud seeding is I did just put an article in the chat. 21 people died in a flood in Dubai as a result of cloud seeding. So much rain came down that it killed 21 people. It caused millions of dollars in damages. I think this technology, anything with manipulating the weather, is such a new technology that we really need to be very cautious, because what would have happened if they cloud seeded like the city of New York? I mean, thousands of people could have been killed from something like that, possibly more. As far as climate change and things like that, I've always been fascinated with this idea of carbon capturing technology, which is, it looks like a giant AC unit and you stick it on top of a building. There seems to be a marketplace for it where it captures the carbon in the air. It's almost like a filtration system. It captures the carbon, so it helps prevent the warming effect, and it condenses the CO2 into a usable fuel afterwards. So not only are you cleaning the air, but you also are collecting fuel sources with it. As far as data centers and the AI conversation, my concern is that, one, the energy usage is going to have to accelerate. And the reason I say we're going to have to be accelerating is that one of the big concerns right now is that we don't have enough power plants in this country. And that's why some people are saying the Chinese have already won, because the Chinese have invested far more into their infrastructure, power plants and things like that, than we have. So we may be dealing with some catch up. And I think my concern with this whole idea of us building a bunch of data centers and having, because right now, as far as I understand it, it's extremely difficult for someone to get an approval for like a nuclear power plant. One thing I think is going to be the future for energy in the United States, realistically, and I know a lot of people are going to probably fight me to the death on this, but I think SMR, small modular reactors, is the future. There's a company called Rolls-Royce that is building SMRs that I think they're going to be selling for 5 or 8 billion a piece. You could put this thing in the back of a semi, drive it to wherever you need to go, plop it down, hook up a bunch of cables to it, and you can power a city as much as, like, I think 10 to 100,000 people.
Yeah.
So I think we need to have at least some wiggle room, where I think we really need to, if we're going to think about lowering the cost of electricity for everybody, I think we need to start thinking about legislation of how to make reactors not a scary thing, but as an opportunity to lower the cost for electricity, to make building factories in the United States really affordable and easy, because our electricity would be so low. And as far as AI, I'm kind of concerned about it to some degree. I think in one way it's a double-edged sword. I think it can help us, but I also think it can cause a lot of harm, because what happens if this AI, Hamas or the Iranians start using it and they start creating germ warfare and other things like that? So I can see this as like an arms race, but I do wish there was a way we could maybe have a small pause and maybe have a global conversation where maybe we have a conversation that goes something like, an updated Geneva Convention or something. So that's my only take. Wonderful conversation. Thank you for having me.
Well, I appreciate your comments. I have quite a few things I would say vaguely in retort, but I do not want to retort. I want to encourage conversation. And I don't think everyone's had a chance to say anything. Did you want to say
Well,
something, David?
retorting and engaging with what was said is also good.
I'm sorry, what?
I mean, it's okay to add your own comments to what Marcio mentioned as well. That's
No, I will, but I want to make sure I don't cut off this conversation. We're already at virtually 9 o'clock. David, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I have, my partner in my first company was in the top 1% of the world's programming and developers. And he's been involved with financial markets for the last 10 years. And I know he is involved with AI in those financial markets. And I have a great amount of fear of what's going to happen when a few people turn this stuff on.
Yeah, I don't know if people understand what was being said about 2008 and 2010 and why the stock market crashed. But I do know what happened. I can explain that to a
It was
certain
mortgage-backed bonds, right? It was how they bundled basically the.
They bundled. What happens is if you have a certain mortgage and you say, okay, the probability of that mortgage failing is say 1% or 5%. And then you say, okay, what's the probability of two of them failing? Well, if you look at the probability right, if those are two independent failures, then the probability of them both failing is the product of the probability of either one failing. So if one has a 1% chance of failing, then the problem both of them failing is 1/100th of 1%. And if you took three of them, you again decrease the probability all of them failing by a similar multiplication. However, they didn't take into account for the fact that the failure might be not independent, namely whatever caused one to fail may be causing the other one to fail, like the price of energy went up or the price of goods or people lost jobs. And this would create a big deficit in the entire economy. And so therefore, these things that were calculated as being independent probabilities are codependent dependent probabilities. And then the failure, then what looked like a really, really safe investment becomes extremely dangerous. And in fact, as soon as one of these things starts to fail, it created a domino effect in many other things. So it's because you didn't look at the problem carefully. I know enough mathematics to understand the difference between independent probability and dependent probabilities. And it's quite possible a naive person work with this would do it. And I was talking to Brendan earlier about my invention with brain scanners. I don't want to do this ad nauseum, but the point is, if you ask AI now who invented and proved that you could build a scientific instrument as a brain scanner, my name never pops up. And they keep bringing up the same people that the Nobel Committee chose, but no one in the Nobel Committee knew what a scientific instrument was. They did not understand that what was produced by the two people who won the Nobel Prize did not include knowledge sufficient to know what they produced was reliably scientifically useful material. It was the kind of useless, disconnected science, pseudoscience that's common in medicine. And so you can't get things fixed that are so deeply broken that they don't even understand how they're interrelated. And that's how I think we can have AI operating unless we had some way to know it was operating better. So I don't see these things become an easy solution. And I don't want to poke holes in what Marcio said, but I will point out that Amy Levins has often said that the cost of nuclear power is orders of magnitude more expensive than solar. It is true though. There is ways to do it that you can deploy quickly. The question is just having more energy the solution? If we had twice as much energy, would we necessarily have all these problems solved? And it's not at all obvious that we would. It's nice, would lower the price of electricity in some ways, but we wouldn't solve the climate problem. If we have to find a solution that, the thing about the octopus solution, which was not highlighted in the comments, is that not only did the price of electricity go down, not only did these business models become viable, but the carbon footprint went down even faster because of the way it was, by buying electricity when it's cheap and selling when it's high, because the average carbon footprint per kilowatt hour in the entire wholesale marketplace to go down similarly. You can't do that just by making cheap electricity. You have to make cheap electricity and sell it into the grid when it's otherwise more expensive. And I'm not saying nuclear can't do that. It can, but it's an integrated solution. So I don't know the answers to all these questions. And I don't pretend that I do. I was just thinking that this was a good topic of conversation because I think it's synergistic and anti-synergistic with what we were talking about in this meeting. So people saw the connections, and I will take the Economist article, turn it into a PDF, and send it to everyone. But I'm not going to send it through ProRate Energy. I'm going to send it through ProRate discussion at Google Groups because I do not want to overwhelm the people who are already subscribed. My wife never got the message, sent 2 emails to this list, in which vaguely undermines the whole purpose of having 2 discussion groups.
All right,
So-
just let you know, I'm going to stop the recording, but we're welcome to continue talking unless there's other comments and once on the recording. Yeah.
Okay.
Excuse me, with the time, I think I'm going to leave.
Okay.
Chicago. Good night.